Of late, Africa has become the main player in global geopolitical drama. The continent has become a chessboard where global superpowers strategize, make moves, and, occasionally, surprise us all. Today, we're zooming in on how Russia turned heads, raised eyebrows, and maybe even nudged the USA out of the African spotlight. To rewind a bit, Russia and the USA have a bit of a history in Africa, which is characterized by a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and occasional side-eye glances. Africa, on the other hand, has been the stage for historical events, conflicts, and diplomatic occasions that have shaped its destiny. You might be wondering, what's the deal? How did we get here? Well, my friend, that's what we're here to unravel. Our goal here is to explore the dynamics of Russia's growing influence in Africa and how it might be shaking things up in Uncle Sam's playbook. So, get ready for an adventure as we navigate through the twists and turns of global politics. Now, let's jump right into it. Background. First things first, let's rewind the clock to the Cold War era, when the USA was like a player in a high-stakes game of Risk, eyeing Africa for its strategic importance. From diplomatic dance moves to economic handshakes, notably, the US was cozying up to African nations, forging alliances, and flexing its diplomatic muscles. However, the USA wasn't just sending diplomats, it was sending dollars. Aid, trade, investments, this was all part of the game since they wanted a foothold, and they got it. Now, let's talk strategy. Through military bases and intelligence gathering, the USA was strategically positioning itself since Africa wasn't just a continent, it was a chess piece on the global board. Fast forward to today, and there be a new player at the table, Russia. The bear has woken up and decided that Africa is its playground. But how did this happen? Economic influence. Russia, the economic chess player, is making moves in Africa through trade agreements, which are a strategic game that's been turning heads. Notably, Russia's been forging economic partnerships that are like strategic moves on the board. Take the Russia-Egypt deal, for instance. Moscow inked a deal to supply wheat to Egypt, securing a steady market. It's not just about grain, it's about cultivating economic ties. Besides, Moscow's been pumping money into African economies like a financial powerhouse. For instance, look at the investment in Nigeria's Ajaokuta Steel Company. Russia is putting dollars into reviving the steel industry, not just for business but forging economic ties that withstand the test of time. But wait, there's more. Russia's not just handing out dollars, it's building bridges, literally. Moscow has been investing in infrastructure projects across Africa, from roads to power plants. It's not just about trade routes, it's about paving the way for economic growth. Overall, Russia's investments bring jobs, infrastructure, and economic growth. As a result, Russia's economic strides are competing with Uncle Sam's interests, shaping the economic chessboard in unexpected ways. Diplomatic engagement. When it comes to diplomacy, Russia's been donning its sharpest suits and making its mark across the African continent, not just through treaties and handshakes. First up, Russia's been partnering up with African nations, forming alliances that extend beyond just economic ties. Besides, at the international stage, Russia's been a frequent flyer at global forums where they've been putting African issues on the table since they have a bigger say in the world's decision-making room. For instance, through the Russia-Africa Summit, leaders from both sides are shaking hands, discussing future collaborations, and formulating some strategic moves for the long run. In comparison, while the US has been known for opening embassies and hosting events, Russia's approach includes a dash of cultural immersion. Also, Russia is using soft power to build connections, leaving a lasting impression that goes beyond political handshakes. Military and security cooperation. Now, when it comes to military maneuvers, Russia's been making moves on the African continent, and it involves not just securing territories but also influencing the game. For instance, through the Wagner Group, which is a private military company, Russia has been flexing its muscles across Africa, from Libya to the Central African Republic. For instance, in Libya, the Wagner Group has been involved in various conflicts, shaping the landscape with a touch of Russian influence. Throughout the country, Russia has sent soldiers to foster defense ties with African nations and, thus, has built a military family with the Wagner Group at the head of the table. Furthermore, in efforts to increase its influence, Russia has been offering military assistance, training, and equipment to African countries. For instance, Russia is the chief arms supplier to Africa, accounting for 40% of African imports of major weapon systems between 2018 and 2022. This has been higher than the total arms imports from the United States, which stands at 16%, China, 9.8%, and France, 7.6%, during those years, according to CSIS.org. Notably, this is not just a transaction, it's a bond that strengthens defense capabilities and is all part of Russia's grand strategy while positioning itself as a stabilizing force in warring regions of Africa. For example, Russia has been contributing troops to UN missions, from Sudan to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Contrarily, over the years, the US has been de-escalating its military presence in Africa, focusing on other global priorities, but this may not be a retreat but a strategic shift. Resource diplomacy. Russia's been cozying up to African nations with promises of oil and gas exploration, which is a trick for ensuring energy security for nations in need. Take Mozambique, for instance. Russia's been investing in natural gas projects, promising a future where Mozambicans won't just have power, they'll have economic empowerment. Therefore, Russia's been twirling partners in a diplomatic waltz, and Africa's on the dance card. Look at Zimbabwe. Russia's been striking deals for platinum and diamonds, not just to fill its coffers but to forge mutually beneficial agreements. However, it's not just about take, it's about give and take. Russia has been throwing its hat into the development ring by offering aid and support for infrastructure projects that address critical needs in African nations. Sudan is a prime example. Russia's been involved in infrastructure projects, from roads to power plants, helping Sudan get back on its feet. Overall, the more pieces Russia acquires, the more influence it has on the geopolitical board. Social-cultural influence. Russia's been investing in cultural and educational exchanges that could rival a blockbuster film. From hosting Russian film festivals to bringing African students to study in Moscow, Russia's weaving a cultural tapestry. From folk dance festivals in Namibia to Russian-language programs in Ghana, Russia's been fostering connections beyond borders. Check out Ethiopia, for example. Russia's been collaborating on archaeological digs, uncovering ancient mysteries together. It's not just about digging dirt, it's about building cultural bonds that withstand the test of time. As a result, Russia's not just telling its story, it's painting a canvas of positivity in the African narrative. In Nigeria, for instance, Russia has been airing documentaries showcasing its rich history and modern achievements. Besides, Russia has been putting on its dancing shoes in regional and continental organizations, from the African Union to the BRICS Summit. At the AU, Russia's been advocating for a multipolar world, echoing the sentiment that every nation deserves a seat at the global table. Accordingly, the more positive images Russia paints, the more its cultural influence blossoms. Russia's been making waves in Africa, not just by playing the geopolitical game but by rewriting the rules. From economic investments to military partnerships, and cultural exchanges to resource diplomacy, it's clear that Russia is leaving its mark on the African continent. Now, I want to acknowledge that geopolitical dynamics are like a puzzle. While we've explored Russia's increasing influence, it's important to recognize the complexity of these relationships. The world stage is vast, and different perspectives add depth to the narrative. Therefore, drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Take care, fellow explorers.